Hey y'all, this is Russ, and welcome back to She Wolf Alchemy. And today's episode is one that I actually been really looking forward to. I get to interview one of my friends, somebody I actually met on social media. She had a podcast. I was a fan of her podcast. She liked our podcast. And we just kind of exchanged numbers and went from there. But she is such an awesome person. So I'm introducing you guys to Danielle Leverett-Gallaspy. And today we're going to sit down and talk about making bold decisions and intentional shifts in our lives. She went from working in education into stepping into advocacy, and her journey really speaks to what it looks like to outgrow a vision of your life that once made sense and choosing something that feels more aligned. I think a lot of us hit that point where we realize that just because we're good at something doesn't mean we're meant to stay there. And today's conversation is really about what it looks like to listen to that voice, to trust yourself, and to pivot even when it feels uncomfortable. So, I'm really excited for y'all to hear her story and everything that came with that transition. So, without further ado, Dani, I would love for you to just start by telling us a little bit about yourself and kind of what your life looked like before that change.
So, my name's Danielle Leverett-Gallaspy. Like I said, I am an advocate currently for victims of domestic violence. But before the change, my life was very predictable, very safe, very day in, day out, same thing, same old thing. I was an educator. So, of course, Monday through Friday, I was teaching in the classroom, fussing at kids, dealing with parents, trying to push back on administrators, come home, be a mom, and get up the next day, do it all over again.
Mhm.
Very, very safe. And eventually that grew old, to say the least. Eventually that grew old. So I just decided, actually, I won't say I decided. There were several things that happened that led up to me deciding that, okay, it's time for a shift. Because if I don't shift, I'm going to be stuck here forever.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, but that's what my life was. It was very boring, very lackluster.
yeah.
Nothing special about anything other than get up, go, be mad, be upset because I have to go to this place. And what now I will say when I first started teaching, because teaching was my heart work initially. I had said since I was in the third grade, I'm gonna be a teacher when I grow up. I'm gonna teach special education. And I went to college. That's exactly what I did. I started teaching special education. And those first few years were amazing. And then we had a shift in legislation that kind of changed the way teachers were able to run their classrooms.
Oh,
Um, and then we also started to see an influx of people who wanted to be educators because educators got free summers and, you still get paid over the summer. And so it was evident in the people who were coming into the building to teach every year. It started to be evident that these people are literally only here for a check. And when it's your hard work, it changes the way you see the profession.
can I say it's so funny you said that because before I got my master's, I was like looking at grad schools and I was thinking about something, and a recruiter reached out to me. He was like, "Why don't you try teaching? You can do this little like 15-month program. We'll put you in a school." It was this whole thing. And I was like, I know nothing about teaching. I have
Yeah.
no experience. And they're like, yeah, 15 months. And it did not feel right to me. Like somebody had to go to school 4 years for this. I don't think me and my little 15 months.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Absolutely.
was being promoted heavily. Like, if you're lost, just teach.
Yeah, and people were taking advantage of it because I mean, you're guaranteed a paycheck. The job stability is there because teachers
Mhm,
are needed, and you get your summers off. You get every holiday off with pay. You get to be at home with their children if you have children. And so people were taking advantage of that. But those of us who actually went to school for education, took those EDU courses versus content area courses, we started to see a shift in the dynamic of the
mhm.
way our schools were being run, honestly. Like you would it was just different. The whole vibe of the school where I was teaching at, it just changed. And I think that was like the first moment of me understanding that, okay, this might not be where I retire from. Mind you, when I went into teaching, I was like, I'm gonna do my 25, 30 years. I'm gonna be out of here. I never thought that I would not retire. I was going to be a retired teacher in my 50s. Like that's just what it was going to be. But when that shift happened, you started to honestly, for lack of better, no, that is, I'm not even gonna say for lack of better terms. It is what it is. I started to lose respect for the profession
Yeah.
because they just allow. It's kind of like, and I hope I don't get any slack for this, any flack for this. You see these life coaches, right? And
Yeah.
everybody's a life coach. Everybody gets online and takes these three. I mean, everybody is a life coach. At some point in time, and when life coaching first became popular, before you could get online and take a course, I actually thought like, that's, outside of a therapist, then you don't necessarily need a therapist. Maybe somebody to just kind of give you a little push and a guide. I thought life coaching was pretty reputable. But
Yeah.
then I started to see that I can get online and pay $500 and just have a life coaching certification and that's how I started to feel about education. It was like
Yeah.
people went to school for business administration and they're teaching third grade math.
Yeah.
You don't have any classroom management courses under your belt. You don't have no type of EDU courses. So that was, I think, where my shift started. So, but prior to that, I loved teaching. And then it just kind of started to go down this little slope that wasn't a steep slope, but it was a steady slope.
Yeah. It's so funny that you mentioned a life coach. I'm a therapist, and yes, that's exactly what it felt like. Because you start seeing people pop up, and then also the prices they're charging. We're like, I got $90,000 worth of student loan debt, and I'm not charging. And then you'll talk to people who came from that, and you hear, and not to say there aren't some amazing life coaches. I have a homegirl who actually went into school for psychology and so forth, and she ended up doing life coaching, but she also specialized, got real training outside of that and everything. But you're right. There's a lot of people that they buy a course and it's just like, take this test.
I am.
It's open book test, and then
Mm-hmm.
your life coach, and it does get frustrating because it devalues all that passion and hard work that you put into. You're like, I'm studying, I am creating, my curriculum. I'm not 100% sure how it works in teaching field, but I imagine like when you are that passionate, I'm putting in the effort, and then here comes this person that's like, it's on the board, turn it in once you get done.
And that is real.
Yeah.
What you just said, like that is, I've seen it with my own two eyes. This is your assignment. I've seen teachers, educators, people who became educators come into a classroom, write some things on the board. I mean, and these are high school students, these are elementary school students,
Mhm.
sit at their desk with their phones
Mhm.
or with their book
Yeah.
and just expect not teaching a thing.
Yeah.
And it became frustrating, heartbreaking, especially when I was teaching special education and I've got these students who need these special supports in your class because they had to be fully included and you're doing nothing when I walk in.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. So that was how things kind of went with me before. But yeah, back to your question. I got off, but yeah, my life was just really very predictable, same
Mhm.
things day in, day out. And then I just got to a point as my career in education went on, I got to a point where, on top of it being predictable, I'm now frustrated when I come home.
Yeah.
I'm not my happy, giddy self. I used to be the wild, fun teacher that did happy hour after school and all the things. And then I started slowly but surely shifting. My counterparts would say, "Hey, are we going to icons after,
Mhm.
after work?" And I'm like, I'm going home. But I used to be the one gathering everybody. Hey, y'all, we gonna meet for icons for margaritas and
Yeah.
things like that. So yeah.
Well, so let me ask, because I know for some people, for example, listeners have probably heard me talk about this multiple times on the show. I am a person who the universe forced into situations. Like I do a lot of change, but I'm forced into situations of change. Like I walk in the door thinking like, oh, this is what's gonna happen. That's just not what's gonna happen. I go with the flow. But for you, was it I was kind of forcing it. Like I was resentful, I was tired, and then I just got to a point where like there was nothing but I can do but change, or was it very intentional?
It was not intentional.
Yeah.
I was pretty much forced into it, but I was forced into it out of being fed up. Um,
Okay.
yeah, my change was forced out of being fed up. It was this slope of just steady year after year. It was one thing after another. And then I got married, and my husband and I moved to Mississippi, and I started teaching in Mississippi.
Mhm.
And my very first year teaching in Mississippi was my last year ever as an educator.
That
I started in August at the start of the school year as a special education teacher at this middle school. And when I started telling people that I knew in the area where I was going to be teaching, they was like, "Oh, you gonna be okay?" And I'm like, "Girl, I've taught in Title One schools before. That's not a
yeah.
problem. I'm not worried about these kids. The kids are the least of my concern." And so, literally, from probably day four, it was one thing after the other, and there
Mm,
was absolutely no support in administration, no support from the parents. And we had, I mean, so many things happened. We had a teacher trying to break up a fight, ended up with a broke shoulder and collarbone.
mhm,
And these are middle school students. I had
mhm.
a special education teacher, I had a 16-year-old in my middle school special education class.
Yeah.
16. I had a young lady, I will always try to look her up to see where she is now. Because whoo, she was a mess. I had a young lady who literally her general ed teacher brought her in my classroom and she was like, I can't do nothing with her. Uh, and so I'm like, what's the problem? And that's the thing, like I always because part of classroom management, you learn building rapport with your students from day
Yeah.
one is one of the biggest things. So the students loved me. Like
Yeah.
I could get them to do things that no other teacher in the school could get them to do.
Yeah.
And that was probably the hardest part about leaving because I knew that I was gonna miss those kids and I knew that they needed that type of structure and support up under them. But she came in the classroom and I was like, what's the problem? What's going on? She was like,
Mhm.
Miss because they always call me Miss Danielle. Miss Danielle, because they couldn't say my last name, first of all.
Look, before we started, I had to ask you like,
Right.
let's
So
get
that's
this
all I was
worked
like, oh
out.
yeah, because nobody can. But she was like, Miss Danielle, she gonna kick me out because and she was like, tell her what you're doing. So she had a pencil sharpener, like the
Mm,
little handheld pencil sharpener. She had taken a paper clip and undid the screw. And I was like, what are you doing that for? What you gonna do with that?
mhm.
I'm taking the razor out. Why are you taking the razor out? Because I'm gonna cut her. Okay, give it here. So
Yeah.
she handed it over to me. She handed it and we were fine the rest of the day. But it was just little stuff
Mhm.
like that. And I'm like, I'm not used to this, but I'm okay with handling these types of
Mhm.
things. Those were the easy things to handle. But then when there were serious things like fights and bullying and things like that, and you go to administration and they basically say, handle it.
Yeah.
Not an administrator. I'm a classroom teacher. And so the final straw for me, like I said, it was just little things like that. And then one other thing when I was teaching, I started to realize that I had come to a place where I really was getting tired of the same old, same old. I was getting tired of being in a place where no matter you say you value me and you come to me with your questions and you value my opinion, but when I give it to you or when I come to you with a need, I'm dismissed.
Yeah.
That got really old really quickly. And it had already been starting before I came to Mississippi, but Mississippi was like magnified times 10. And
Another.
so the believe it or not, so crazy, the smallest thing is what sent me over the edge. It was the week before Christmas break. I mean Thanksgiving break, week of Thanksgiving break. I sitting in my classroom, beginning of the morning, getting ready for the kids to come in, buses start pulling up. I go to my door to do hall duty. And one of my students, is walking down the hall with no shoes on. Where your shoes at, baby? Put his head down. I was like, come here. Come in my classroom. Where your shoes? I'm thinking mama done sent him out without shoes
Yeah.
and he said, I won't say the child's name, but I'm calling him Michael. He
Mhm.
said, Michael got them. Why does Michael have your shoes? He took them. So I go out to the hall because I'm big bad wolf. Go out to the hall and I'm like, is Michael down there? One of the teachers said, yeah, he down here. I was like, come here. Where are his shoes? Outside. So, long story short, in my investigative process, find out that they're on the bus. Little boy had gotten on the bus with his shoes on. Michael decides that's his target for the day. That's who he's
Mhm.
gonna bully. Now, Michael is also the 16-year-old student that I talked about
Of course he
a
is.
while ago. Right. So Michael proceeds to make him take his shoes off. When they got off the bus, now mind you, they are at the school when they got off the bus. There should be an adult standing out there.
Yeah.
And when you know the person who was supposed to be standing out there was not a educator by education. They fell into education. Made him take his shoes off, took him out once they got off the bus, put his hands in them, scraped them all over the concrete to scratch him up, then proceeded to pull out his private part and urinate on him.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So of course I'm like, oh, absolutely not. Come
Yeah.
on, let's go. So I take him to the office and I explain what's going on. I ask for a referral. I'm writing the referral. The administrator comes in and she says, "What's going on?" So I tell her and I tell him, tell her.
Mhm.
And he said, and she said, "Did you do that?" "Yes, ma'am."
Mhm.
She was like, "I'm so tired of you. I'm going to call your mama. Go back to class."
Oh. Oh.
So are you going to call his mama and tell her she got to buy a new pair of shoes?
Mhm.
Are you? So I had this conversation with the administrator, just asking, like, okay, what constitutes a referral? Because y'all want us to write these kids up for walking the halls. You
Yeah.
want us to write them up for leaving the classroom without permission to go to the restroom. But this isn't a write up.
Yeah.
And she told me, well, sometimes you just got to pick and choose your battles. You could have handled that.
That's the battle we picking and choosing?
That's the hill you want to die on. I said, okay,
Mm.
all right. Got back to my classroom. I was stewing because I just thought about if that was my baby. Because at the
Yeah.
time, Matthew was the exact same age.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, no, he was a year younger. But still, at the time, I'm like, so I'm fuming, just like, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
So there wasn't a moment where God was like, hey, it's time to leave. It was
Yeah.
just like, you know what? I'm tired. So that day, I took home a box of stuff from my classroom, like notebooks and things like that. The next day, I took home a little more.
Mhm.
By that Friday, my classroom was empty. I went home that Friday for Thanksgiving break and I
Yeah.
never went back. I
See.
sent my resignation letter during Thanksgiving break. I had no clue what I was going to do. I didn't know what I was going to do about money. Like, granted, I had my husband, but this was at a time where we, he was early in IT. Well, now he had been doing IT for a while, but he wasn't making what he's making now, anywhere
Mhm.
close to it. So we were okay, but we
Mhm.
needed my salary. My salary
Yeah.
was much needed, and I didn't know. But I went home and I told him, I said, I'm not going back. And he was like, "What you gonna do?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "Whatever you want to do, wife, I support you." That
Yeah.
was all I needed to hear. I
Yeah.
was like, okay. I could breathe. I took a couple. I didn't stay long though. I didn't stay unemployed for long. Like I took a couple weeks to breathe. Of course, Thanksgiving week, the week
Mhm.
after. Then I started applying. At that point, rest. I didn't care what I did.
Yeah.
I didn't have a plan. I did it scared. I did. It was
Yeah.
uncertain. I didn't have a clue what I was going to do. I didn't know what field I was going into. I knew I couldn't go back to that school system to another school because I had left in the middle of the year.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was going to do, but I was like, I don't think teaching is it because everybody's like, well, you can apply at another school system. And I was like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think this is it for me. And it's crazy because that's all it took. I had been dealing with the same stuff day in and day out
Mhm.
for for a little bit of money because mind you, teachers don't get paid much
Yeah.
if we're
Yeah.
if we're honest. But I had been doing it for 9 years,
Mm.
day in and day out, and I was content with knowing that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life,
Yeah.
for the rest of my professional career, I should say. And that one little thing where somebody just kind of dismissed and basically said, although you're a professional and I'm supposed to respect your professional
Mhm.
opinion, your opinion don't matter. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. That's enough is enough. So I just started applying, and lo and behold, there was a position at our local hospital in the neonatal intensive care unit
Mhm.
for an early interventionist, which is basically special education for babies,
Yeah.
sick babies. So I was like, salary is pretty much the same as what I was making now. Still
Mhm.
wasn't much money, but it was pretty
Yeah.
much the same. But it also said negotiable. I was like, I'm
Mhm.
gonna apply. I applied and went and interviewed, and they loved me, told me they would let me know something. I didn't make it to my car from the interview before the director of the neonatal to Dr. Famuidi, I'll never forget her, called me, and she's a medical director of the NICU.
Mhm.
And she said, when can you start?
Mhm.
And I was like, I could start tomorrow because I really could. I wasn't doing anything. And she was like, well, I'm going to let you go get your fingerprints and all that. So basically, I started that Monday
Yeah.
and I stayed in that position for, and that was another position. I just felt like I'm going to stay here. This is
Yeah.
where I'm going to be. But then that came too heavy for me because my husband and I were trying to conceive and the
Yeah.
babies were sick and dying. It was really heavy to watch that.
Yeah.
But I stayed there for a few years and then literally while I was there fell into nonprofit work. All this kind of started stacking on top of each other. But all that to say, from the NICU to going into nonprofit work,
Mhm.
I started working for a housing opportunities for people living with HIV and AIDS program.
Okay.
Had never worked in nonprofit before, had never even thought about housing, like totally so far removed from what
Yeah.
I thought I wanted to do. But oddly enough, I got in that and I loved it. And I realized what I really love is helping people.
Yeah.
That was like my bottom line. I can do any job where it involves helping
Young
people.
people.
Love that job. And then during the pandemic, grant funding ended because it's a nonprofit.
Yeah.
And I found myself at another shift. Crazily enough, I had learned so much about the nonprofit world while I was at that job. My niece and both her children were murdered in a domestic violence incident. And so I got really involved in the domestic violence world. Never thought about starting anything. Of course, I wanted to honor them, but never. But here I am. I have all this nonprofit experience. I had been volunteering and noticed some gaps in our services within our area. And so I took that nonprofit experience there and started my own nonprofit
Yeah.
and I went and got credentialed as a victim's advocate. And that's what I do day to day now. And it's
Yeah.
crazy how all of that just kind of the chain of events started from me saying, enough is enough, I'm out.
Yeah.
And
And
I couldn't be happier in my career right now.
one of the things I love that you said was like, it's not that I heard a voice from God. It's not that I think sometimes we think, well, if I'm supposed to move, it's going to be this big, huge thing, and then I'll know. And I think for a lot of people, it is no. There is a stillness in you that's just like I'm done,
Yes.
and you have to trust in that. You have to have that self trust.
That's the biggest part. Like I said, I was scared, like
Yeah.
financially at the height of my fear was definitely finances, but
Hmm.
also was just fearful of what if I don't find anything else?
Yeah.
What if that was my purpose and I let it go? What if this isn't the right thing?
Yeah.
But if I had not done that, I'll probably still be teaching. Even with everything that went on with my niece, I probably never would have started what I'm doing now. I
Yeah.
would still be in the classroom, to be honest, because I was literally that content. And so it just all it took was the straw to break the camel's back to say, okay, all right, that's it. And you're right. There's not well for me. I mean,
Mhm.
some people may have that, epiphany where it's like, yes, God, I hear you. But
Mhm.
for me, it was none of that. It was just like, yeah, if I don't get out of here, it's not gonna be pretty
Yeah.
because I know me. I'm a Midwest girl at heart. I'm in the South now, and I've been in the South a long time, and I consider myself a Southern belle sometimes. But I was born and raised in the Midwest, and I had to go.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, even the like you talking about how it's like, yeah, and I've never done this before. And I applied. And then I learned it and I did it. And I did it well. And then I did, and then that ended. And I never done this other thing before.
Yeah.
I think we get so stuck in boxes of like, but this is what I thought it was going to be. This is what I know. This is where I'm my area. And when you recognize that your area is like, it's just not working, my passion is not there no more. I no longer want to be here. You, I, my mom used to tell me the story about like how she got from where she got. Because most of my life, my mom has been president, a CEO, or something. My mom is a high school dropout. My mom is a high school dropout. My mom said that she was always in trouble. She stayed fighting. And her mom was like, you need to do something because they're not going to keep calling me.
Mhm.
And she said that pretty much what got her to where she is that she would go and apply places, apply for different things. And they would ask her, okay, but do you do this? And she's like, no, but I can learn. And I've always adapted that mentality. No, but I can learn. You might have spent 20 years doing something that might not be your calling, or that could be your season. I love your story because it shows that you're allowed to have new seasons.
Absolutely. And that is something that I have come to terms with. And I'm so thankful that I understand because a lot of people, especially, when you become a certain age, you feel like this is it.
Yeah.
This is the end game for me. But what I have learned in these last 10 years is nothing is set in stone.
Yeah.
Nothing is forever. Nothing is definite. You can change whatever you want to change. N- if I decided, and which we briefly talked about, like
Mhm.
I decided, okay, this ain't the direction. Still want to do advocacy, but not like this.
Yeah.
Guess what? I'm changing it. And
Yeah.
who's gonna stop me? Nobody. And that's so, like, I lived my life for so long thinking I had to do things
Yeah.
this way. I had to do everything has to be done the way that others perceive that it was meant to be done. And
Mhm.
it's not. I am a huge supporter of do it scared,
Yeah.
do it however you want to do it. If you want to do it backwards,
Yeah.
whatever it takes, but do it. And one of the realest things I love to quote this, my friend laughs at me all the time. Jill Scott did a interview. I think she was on the Breakfast Club,
Mhm.
and they were asking her about what about when people tell you you should do it this, and she said, I respond like this: if you can tell me what to do,
Mhm.
then you can tell me what to do. But if you can't tell me what to do,
Yes.
you can't tell me what
Mhm.
to do. And I felt I know some people are like,
Yeah.
what? But no, listen to what she is saying.
Yeah. I love that clip.
You can't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think also like going back to kind of how you talk about how everything happened. I love how you just slowly by day, I'm just taking a little bit, I just taking a little bit. The ability to not be afraid to leave something, the ability, because you talked about, oh, it was scary. Like we can laugh, we can ha ha now, we can make it sound real pretty now, but like, yo, that was terrifying back then. What was that everyday transition like back then? Because I feel like sometimes when we tell our stories, um, and I think where people get lost, especially as a therapist, I sit and I talk to people every day. One of the things I feel like I consistently hear is because it sounds so pretty and elegant and it does not get the gritty parts. It doesn't get the everyday parts. Okay. Oh, okay. We left. What do I do in that meantime? It makes people be like, I don't know if I can do that. It feels so like, but I feel scared. And she was brave. And it was like, no, no,
Whiskey. Absolutely. So yeah, so what did the fear look like? Those day to days, like I said, it wasn't a long period because I was so scared that honestly my fear drove me to like, okay, get up and make some shake. Cause
no.
girl, you can't be broke. You've been broke before. Can't be broke again. But like day to day was literally, and initially it was getting up and just sitting with myself. After I got Matthew off to school, initially, and this was before like being at peace with yourself was a thing and
Yeah.
it was popular. This was when like people thought I was depressed because I was literally at home sitting with myself, sitting
Mhm.
with my thoughts, trying to decide if I had made the right decision.
Yeah.
So yeah, I doubted myself. I questioned myself. I even considered like seeing if I could go back, all things
Yeah.
because I was scared. And like
Yeah.
the height was definitely the finances, but also I was afraid of the unknown. So if I do go into this other job or another job, what's that gonna look like? At least in
Right.
education, I knew what I was getting. I knew the kids was gonna be rough. I knew the parents were not gonna be supportive. I go into this other job. I don't know what kind of people I'm gonna be working with. I don't
Right.
know, how the salary's gonna look, all those things. But initially sitting with myself and then, okay, time to hit the ground running. What you gonna do?
Yeah.
You gonna start applying. What are you applying for? I don't know. Whatever sounds good.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I literally just did the thing. Like, a lot of the times I think people will see, well, especially when it comes to careers, like people will see job titles
Yeah.
and they feel intimidated by them. And they're like, oh, I'm not going to apply to that because I probably don't qualify for that or I don't have no experience in that. When I tell you, I'm a living witness, I had two jobs that paid more than teaching, more than the job that I left, better benefits, and gave me great experience that I had no experience in. I had no knowledge. I knew about early intervention, but I had no knowledge of a HOPWA program before I started running that program.
Yeah.
None. But I got in it, and we were the first program actually in our city to build it from the ground up. The other program in our city had already been built by HUD. We built our own program from the ground up with this nonprofit and ran it like champs, a team of four Black women.
Yeah.
And never would have thought that was something I was going to do. I went to, conferences all across the US with these people like Gilead and, all these big names from somebody who had no clue about their world. So, and it all because I was like, that salary looked good. Let me go and send them a different thing.
Yeah.
Because I looked at the job description and was like, I might could do that. I was like, what's the requirements? I got a degree. I, I live in Mississippi.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can read, I can write, I can organize, I can do all those things. Absolutely. We're gonna send a resume because what I've learned since then is the worst thing anybody can tell you is no. We got to stop being afraid of rejection. It was that
Yeah.
I was so fearful of failing that I didn't care about rejection anymore. I was not afraid of rejection. I was just gonna go and apply. And if you want me there, I'm coming.
Yeah.
You don't want me there, I'm applying to the next one. It's fine.
No, I love that you said that. In fact, it's reminding me of talking about quotes that we love, like, and I don't remember mine by heart, but Michelle Obama years ago had got interviewed and she talked about, still struggling with like self-doubt and stuff. And she was like, but you know what? I walked into these rooms and realized honestly, they're not that smart. I know for me, that was something I used to struggle with. Like I would go like, oh, but I'm because I'm usually the youngest person in the rooms I'm in. So I'm like, oh, but I'm so much younger. They're not gonna take me serious. And then I get up there and I'm like, oh, I'm the most mature person in this entire room. Oh,
You hear me?
okay.
You hear me? I'm telling you, I have walked into rooms, like I said, with the people from, and I'm like, this what y'all paying these board meetings doing? What? I can, what? Yeah.
Dave, let me tell you, one time I applied for this job, right? I was fresh out of grad school, but I had years working in like forensics, working with inmates, working with people, victims of sex trafficking and things. And so this was working with a local jail over here. And it was going to be the like lead therapist. And I was like, oh, I'm going to apply. And I was scared because I'm like, I just graduated. I just got my little associates. They're not going to want me. But I made it through. And after I made it through the second round, told me they were going with somebody else, but they liked me so much. They're like, hey, we got another position for you. We want you to look into this other position. I'm like, okay, cool. But of course, orientation come, and I know they did hire somebody, and they're going to be in this room, and I'm like, oh, and they're probably going to be so smart, and they're probably going to be blah blah. And and this was an amazing woman, but never done therapy a day in her life. Did all of her years of practice actually working with children in the hospital, and I was like, okay, well, maybe there's some background knowledge she has that I don't have. And I would walk into these rooms so intimidated. And by the time I left that job, I found out She was cool with some people on the board. That's how she got a job. The director of our entire agency, this man was over multi-million dollars of programs, had a bachelor's in music. He's over multi-million dollar programs for mental
You
health.
do you hear me?
After that, I was like, oh, you can do whatever you want. It's just
Right.
audacity.
Like,
Knowing
and
the
that's
right
the
people
thing,
and
like,
audacity.
literally, the sky's the limit, and I think, like, it's important to, like, share those types of stories. I think people need to hear that because so many especially women who look like us, because I work day to day with women whose confidence is already broken,
Yeah.
and they're already in spaces where they don't feel worthy, and so when we start working on employment and, finding, they're like, "Well, I could go to the gas station." No, 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 no. What you good at? We gonna apply to everything.
Yeah.
We're gonna apply to everything because guess what? You can do it. Just
Mhm.
because well, I don't have a degree, a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't. You got people sitting in these offices that are looking down their nose at you when you come into this office, and she barely made it out of high school. Sweetie, apply
Mhm.
for that job.
Yes.
Apply. So yeah.
Well, so now you made that change. You've been over here in this version of your life, this era for a while. What does this era now kind of look like for you?
Oh my goodness. It's not predictable as it used to be. I am a whole lot more fun. I think Fun Danny has returned. I do a whole
Yeah.
lot more. I'm not so bogged down, though the work that I do is heavy
Mhm.
because I have learned from past experiences.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem now with taking time for myself.
Yeah.
I will cut off social media. I'll cut
Mhm.
people off.
Look.
Whatever whatever is needed. And so because I've learned from that, those past experiences of just going, 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 and just doing the job, because I've learned to take those breaks, I'm back to being fun. I go out, I hang out. I'm a much more pleasant wife. I think my husband
Yeah.
would say much more pleasant wife. I'm a better mom for sure because when you're in frustration mode, especially with the job that you have to go to because you have to work,
Yeah.
you sometimes take that stuff out on your kids,
Yeah.
if you're not, cognizant of your behaviors most of the time. But on a day to day is literally no 2 days are the same. Some days I might be on the phone all day trying to talk a client into understanding that life is not easy.
Mhm.
Sometimes I have to be mama bear, like, okay, life ain't gonna be easy. It's gonna be hard.
Mhm.
I ain't say moving was gonna be a cakewalk, but you gotta do it. We gotta do this.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
then other days I'm planning events for my organization or I'm doing research for a presentation I've got coming up or something like that. So I do appreciate that part because I'm getting to experience several different facets of this work and still being able to hone in on my purpose. Like all
Mhm.
of it falls back to my purpose. And
Yeah.
so I still feel fulfilled no matter what my day looks like.
Yeah.
Versus back then, because my day was the same, there were days that I came home and felt like I accomplished nothing
Yeah.
because I spent all day yelling or arguing with a parent because you want somebody to pacify your child, for lack of a better term. I ain't doing it.
Yeah.
So, but I do appreciate this season. And I also appreciate the fact that I know that once this season, that I know that this season is going to come to an end. This isn't my
Yeah.
forever season. And I think that's important for me to kind of point out. One thing I've learned about myself in all the transitions that I've had when it comes from what I initially set out to do when I first left home and went to college to now is I now understand that nothing is gonna be my forever. Like
Yeah.
everything is gonna have a season and it's gonna come to an end. And I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Back then it was like a goal to teach for 30 years. I want to have 30 years under my
Mhm.
belt. I don't want to do 30 years of nothing. You hear
Yeah.
me? Other than be a parent and a wife like that. I
Yeah.
don't want 30 years of nothing else. No job. Like I'm being honest. Like,
Yeah.
because at some point you're gonna hit that ceiling. You're gonna
Yeah.
learn as much as not all that you can learn because there's always room for learning and growth,
Mhm.
but you're gonna learn as much as you need to learn.
Yeah.
And you go on to the next thing. And it may be in the same field, but it may not be, but it won't always be this.
Yeah. I think that is so important to point out because I think so many times when people are thinking about making the transition, it is like this idea, like, and this will be my forever then. And then I'll be happy when I get to here. And it's like, no, this is about learning how to flow. This is
Yes.
about learning how to flow.
Mhm. That's
One thing I will say though that I love that you pointed out, you really highlighted that the biggest changes is how I've changed. I'm happier. I've changed in my home. You and me, when I tell y'all, y'all two are my travel people. I just go on Instagram and I'm like, oh, Dani on the beach again.
yeah,
Oh, Dani.
my favorite place.
But I love that for you guys because I think also for some of us, I know me personally, I was a person who kind of like you. Now, I did not have a I'm going to be a teacher since I was 3. I changed my major like 3, 4 times during undergrad. So, but like I do once I graduated, I think I definitely was somebody that had a 10-year plan. I had a 5-year plan, I had a
Mhm.
10-year plan. And for me, a big part of that was learning like, okay, and some things are a part of the plan. Some things aren't a part of the plan. You can plan your life, that's fine. But I do think some of us just have a life path that is more like, nope, and we're going to throw you a curveball. And we just need you to learn how to float. And there can be beauty in that. There can be beauty in having plans. There can be beauty in like, yeah, this is what I want the next 5 years, 10 years. Definitely, get your stuff together if that's going to help you hold yourself accountable, if that's going to help you, maintain some things. But like that the beauty in being able to say, oh, but that plan no longer works. Cool. I can let go of it.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. Like being able to see that it's okay to move on.
Yeah.
It's okay to move on. And what's crazy is when I was stuck,
Hmm.
because I was until the very end, I never felt stuck. I
Yeah.
it was just but it was a part of my plan. This is what I was supposed to be doing all this time. And then you push yourself because you're just going along with it. You're going along with the flow because this is what you planned for your life.
Yeah.
And then you get to this point where it's like, oh, they think I can't leave here. Oh, you do like you do feel stuck because you're like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I will say, even in a part of my decision before I left, just for a brief moment, because at this point I was big grown and I love my mama, but I ain't care no more.
Hmm.
But for a brief moment, I even thought like, oh, my mom gonna be so disappointed because
Yeah.
again, I'm supposed to be a teacher. I've been a teacher
Yeah.
all this time. This is that's what they sent me to school to be.
Yeah.
First one to go directly from high school to college and first one to get in a sorority and graduate and
Yeah.
all those things. And so I was supposed to be a teacher forever.
Yeah.
And like that was like one of her brags when she would talk about her children, like, well, Danielle's a teacher. She's been
Yeah.
teaching, all these years. And so I was like, oh, mama's gonna be so disappointed. But like I said, it was short lived because I was like, she gonna have to get over it because I ain't gonna make it. I'm gonna make it.
But you know what? That's real because I do think, and I've talked about this several, several times because I see it all the time. I think sometimes we have this like checklist,
Mhm.
and sometimes some of the things on the checklist aren't even really ours. I know that's not exactly what you were saying, but sometimes the things on our checklist aren't even
Yeah.
ours. I remember I worked for the public defender's office for about 3 years of my life. And I can't tell you how many of those lawyers were like, yeah, no, I wanted to be an artist. But, mom told me to do 10 years of law and then I can do art. And it can feel like so much, especially if you are, and I'm not saying this is what you're saying, but it can feel like so much when especially if you're like the golden child of your family. And it's like, no, I got their hopes. Like, you understand, my mama ate we only bought food that came with the coupons for 2 years so she could make sure I went to school. I can't just up and flip the script now, but you have to live that life.
Yes.
They
Yes.
don't have to live it. They might think, okay, you making that good money, you got that good job. They don't know
Mhm.
you come home every night and cry.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, like definitely the golden child. Like I said, she went to college and oh,
Mhm.
she got her master's and oh, and she this great mom and she's teaching and she does
Mhm.
all these things and it was just expected. Like, and that's the other thing too. Like I always tell people, what people don't understand is yes, I wanted to be a teacher from 3rd grade. I always knew I wanted to teach special education, but also I was never given the opportunity to decide whether or not I was going to
Mhm.
school.
Yeah.
You're going to college. Like
Yep.
it was not a debate in my house. There was no discussion on whether or not Danielle was going to college. Danielle
Mm.
going to school when she graduated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Period. And so, of course, when I started teaching, it was like, okay, Danielle's a teacher, and this is, like I said, her existence, and amongst other things, other goals that my mom had for me. Like there were things that I had boxes I needed to check off, and I think that also played a lot of a role in some of my mental health challenges as well.
Mhm.
Definitely, just trying to live up to
Yeah.
her standards. And not until I, like I said, got to this place, learned myself, and got to this place like, y'all got to figure it out.
Yeah.
I, you know,
What you're talking about is they're having boundaries and changing your narrative. That is so much of the healing work in
mhm,
therapy is getting boundaries. People think it's so much more complicated than that, but a lot of times, a lot of our stuff goes back to do you have boundaries that actually keep you safe? Which is no, I'm not going to do that because that doesn't feel good for me. And then also allowing yourself to change your narrative. A lot of the times, again, we have this story about who we are, and we no longer fit that story. The book no longer makes sense to us, and we insist on trying to keep to that narrative. You can change your narrative. You are the author.
you are the, yes, yes, you are the author. You determine how this goes. If you can stop in the middle of the chapter and switch it up,
Literally,
and no, once again, nobody's gonna stop you.
nobody's going to stop you. I have a tattoo actually on my right arm that says Deus Ex Machina, and it's Latin. It's a literary plot device they
Mhm.
use in like a lot of times like Greek tragedies or whatever. But basically, what it means is that the author decides to change the story in the middle of nowhere. It's basically like a plot twist. It's used when you have these like stories where it was like there is no way out. There is nothing that the hero can do. They are trapped in a store in a corner, and this should be the end. And Deus Ex Machina is basically the author just deciding, yep, and now they fly. So, anyways, they got out of that. Is deciding that nope, and I'm going to flip the script to something that already makes sense of happening because I decided goes on essentially. And
Love.
I get that on me because, like you said, my life is one of those where the story just decides to change. And it's like, okay, then I got to learn how to go with the flow of this story, change it, and be okay with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the thing. Like sometimes it changes out of necessity. And
Mhm.
sometimes I think another thing, another important point is sometimes it just changes because you want it to.
Yes.
It's not nothing, nothing's gonna blow up, nobody's gonna die, but this is not feel good for me.
Yeah.
So I'm changing it.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And I think once we get to a place where we can understand that change is good for one.
Yeah.
I know change sometimes is difficult, but change is good. Change is necessary in order to grow. You can't grow if you're staying the same. You stay
Yeah.
in the same situations with the same people. I mean, that goes not just for your work life, but your relationships, your
Mm.
parenting, your friendships, all of the things. Like you cannot grow and things can't improve if you stay in the
Yeah.
same situations. It's just not possible. And not until, like I said, not until I realized those types of spaces, I guess I can't even think of what I'm trying to say, but not until I realized that did I realize, okay, so I, and then the other thing is when you change, this is something that I learned too. When you change, a lot of times people don't even care. We put in our heads
Yeah.
that people are going to think this about us, or they're going,
Yeah.
oh, they gonna think that I'm unstable, or they're gonna think that we people they don't even
No,
care. They
I
don't
ain't
even
paying
care.
attention.
Not in the least. And so you have stayed stuck in this space for all this time
Yeah.
because you were afraid of what Sally and Susie were going to think. And Sally and Susie over there in La La Land.
Mhm.
You could have been over. This could have been
Yeah.
done. So
Yeah. Danny's such a Sagittarius. I love change.
we do.
I'm there with you. I love change. Let's change it up. Let's make something new happen. Well, and let me ask you this. Are there parts of you that had to grow to sustain this new life, to sustain this change? Because sometimes again, we have these new things happen, and it's now, okay, there's parts of me I can't carry into this.
Yeah. I had to release some things.
Okay.
I had to release the need to be pleasing to everybody's
Mm,
sight. And when I say so, I'm not talking about my physical appearance. I'm talking about who I am and how I appear outwardly to people. I had to let that go because I used to be the person, girl, I used to wear slacks everywhere. Do you hear me? Never put on a pair of jeans. Always had on slacks and a teacher attire. Like always,
yeah.
like I couldn't be seen out without being
Yeah.
teacher. And now as an advocate, like I mean, I was very cautious about what I posted on social media, which
Yeah.
listen,
Yeah.
let me fix that because people think you could just be out here posting whatever. Don't do that.
No. Private your account, if anything.
Right, right. Don't do that. But when I say I was very cautious, like there would be opinions that I would have, or I was cautious about who I associated with and what I
Mhm.
liked and all those things. Not because it was something that I wanted to be cautious about, but more so because I was afraid of how it would be perceived by others.
Yeah.
And so me now is like, sure, when I what's the word? Back when I was, when K Michelle was out, we were saying zero F's
Mm,
given.
yeah.
If they got another term for it now, but long story short, I'm unbothered when it comes to what other
Yeah.
people think about me. I say what I want to say. I feel how I want to feel. I share what I want to share. My page is private,
Mhm.
my personal page,
Mhm.
but still, like there, like even some little funny jokes and stuff, I would have never shared
Yeah.
again. So that was one of the things I had to release, just not worrying about other people's perception of me.
Yeah.
Something else I had to let go was the
Mhm.
fear of the unknown. I had that really, really bad. And to an extent, I guess I still do, but nowhere near like I used to. I used to fear, like, even so much so of if I do this, I don't know if I do this, if I leave here, I don't know what's going to happen. So I would dream up the worst imaginable
Mm,
scenario. And I just had to let that go. Like, okay, if it happens, we're going to find a way to pivot.
yeah.
We're going to find a way to fix it. And I had to learn and grow to understand that everything is fixable. You blow something up, you can rebuild it, you can fix
Mm,
it, it's a repair part somewhere. And once I got that in my head, you know, like I said, change is everything for me now. Like
yeah.
I'm in a season now where still gonna be doing my work, my purpose
Mhm.
work, but I'm shifting
Yeah.
because change is necessary.
I mean, it sounds like you went from operating out of control to operating out of resiliency.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a beautiful way and a pretty bow to put it.
Yeah.
Wrap it up in a pretty bow. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. I definitely went from because I was in a space where I wanted to control the narrative on everything.
Yeah.
Everything. And again, I think a lot of that came out of other people's expectations for me.
Mhm.
And I wanted to make sure that, I fit in that box that everybody
Yeah.
had put me in until I couldn't take it anymore. That box was
Mm.
getting so claustrophobic
Yeah.
and I had to get out.
Me and Gabby, actually, y'all gonna already heard the episode before then. It's all over the place, but we still gonna release it. We gonna release it. But there's a point though where we are talking about like the dangers of thinking about yourself as a brand because after a while you stop being yourself and you're just the brand and how draining that can feel.
And it is. And I
Mm.
fell into that trap when I first started my nonprofit.
Mm.
I 100% fell into that trap because I was the face of R3 and I could
Mm.
not be myself, like just go out and have a drink with some friends and,
Yeah.
because, oh, I can't go there, I can't do that because, and now I'm like, no, R3 is its own thing.
Yeah.
I'm still Dani. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go and enjoy myself. And there's there's 100%. Oh, I need to listen
Yeah.
because 100%. I'm sure I'll be amening y'all through the radio.
Mhm.
Because yeah, you get in that space where when you start something that you've built, you want to be the face of that brand. So
I definitely get it because I'll tell you something, and it's still a fear I'm working through. I don't want none of my clients to find our podcast. I do not want a single one of my clients to find my podcast at all. And it's something that I think because for a long time we didn't show our face, and that was a big
Right.
part. Also, Rest is not my name. Like, I want to
Right.
be very clear because I used to have another podcast that used my name, and several clients found it because you Google your therapist because you want to see what their
Mhm.
reviews are. You want to, and I've had people come on like, I listen to your podcast. Like, what podcast? Which one?
Which one?
Like the one with the advocacy and the funding. Oh, yeah. Y'all don't need to know my
Gotcha.
personal stories. So oh my gosh, I totally get that. I'm still working through that by showing up and
Yeah.
still going through and being like, but I'm waiting for the day. I'm waiting for the day for one of my clients to be like, mm-hmm.
Mhm. I heard you.
Because I heard you used to set people's stuff on fire.
Right.
This was 20-year-old me.
And that's the other thing too about like shifting is being able to leave your past you
Yeah.
back. And don't get me wrong, you're gonna have people who want to drum up past you. But I always tell people, oh, she doesn't exist anymore. She left. She's
Yeah.
gone. What do they say? Christina's not here. Like she's gone.
And you do have to be careful with shifting. I know this is something that happened to me with shifting, and actually more so with the podcast more than like my career, the career that pays my bills. Um, you'll have people, I think, also that are kind of like you said, used to the OU, wants the OU to come back, and so they'll just kind of nitpick at the new you. They'll nitpick at the little things that you're doing. And sometimes I feel like you have to be real careful with that and really decide, do I need to limit this person? Because there can be a point, at least I know for me, there was a point in time where I'm like, oh, this person knows me really well. And so maybe they have a point. And then I had to get to the point where like they know the old version of me because as I'm showing up in this new version, this is just trying to pull me back. But sometimes those people pull you back and you can convince yourself like, oh, well, they do know me. I've known them since fifth grade. And so maybe
Mhm.
they do have a point. And maybe, and like you said, you kind of got to be like, Christina's not here no more.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. We've talked about this before. I've experienced that with my Harley Quinn.
Hmm.
Love her to pieces. We
Yeah.
had so much fun together, but baby, the Danny you knew, she gone.
Yeah.
She is gone. She's not coming back.
Yeah.
But it got to a point where she would, you said little nitpick stuff or little comments like, "Oh, you're not fun no more. You're not
Yeah.
fun no more." Well, that I'm like, girl, born on me, honey. I got things I'm trying to accomplish. Sorry.
It's so funny. So not my Harley Quinn, and it's so funny you mentioned that because I was driving the other day, like I miss her so much. Like I just wanted to call.
Don't it hit you at the wrong time.
The other day, I'm like, I should call her. Then I had to remind myself why I literally had disconnected. I was like,
Yes,
girl, you don't have the money to bail her out of stuff right now. This is not things so expensive for you to be missing her right now.
oh,
But
genius.
I had another friendship that I had to because last year was a year I really had to look at where all my energy was going and be really and make a decision about like what was worth making an effort and saying, okay, we need to work differently and let's have a conversation and then let's us decide how we can both like show up in a
Yeah.
way that works for both of us. And then I also had to make decisions around the way you operate and who you are as a person just is no longer compatible with me. This is not a conversation about meeting each other in the middle. We simply aren't compatible anymore.
Right.
But in that, I definitely had somebody who like it was the opposite. It wasn't that like, oh, you're boring now. It was the opposite. It was just like, well, as a professional, is that how you want to show up? It's just, is that how you really want your brand to be? Just little nitpicky stuff. Just little
Mhm.
nitpicky stuff. And because I love and I value this person's opinion a lot, for a while, I just was like, well, maybe I do need to think about how I'm showing up. Maybe I do. And I really had to sit with myself for a couple months to be like, no, I want this to be my space where I can be vulnerable. I was very intentional when we created She Wolf, and saying, I want it to feel like a conversation with friends. And we just happen to sprinkle some mental health in there. You don't even know.
Mhm. Mhm.
And when you having a conversation with your girlfriends, you're not hiding behind this whole false, like, and I do it right and I do it perfect and da 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 da. I
Yeah.
actually, you can have the knowledge. Every single person on this podcast, all three of us have our degrees. We do this every living and we fuck up.
Uh, Not just all three of y'all, everybody. And I wish people would get in a space where they're willing to admit that and they wouldn't have the audacity to nitpick on because we've
Yeah.
all done it and we all will continue to do it. We are
Yeah.
human. You gonna mess up. It's just that's what it is.
Yeah.
You're gonna have some beautiful days and you're gonna have some less than favorable days. That's just what it is.
So before we wrap up, because we talked about the positive, we were like rah rah, and this is why you need to allow change and da da da. Do you think there is a certain type of person who would be miserable, kind of just taking that leap? Are you like, nope, this is for everybody, let's do this? Or are you like, hey, this works for me because of this, and if you struggle with this, maybe your change need to look different.
Absolutely. So these types of changes are not for the people who are content with being comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
It's uncomfortable, but you will eventually get into a comfort zone. But that initial part of that shift is uncomfortable. And it may be 3 weeks, it may be 5 months. You don't know how long. So
Yeah,
if you're one of those people who needs that certainty and needs to have control of every narrative in your life, shifting like this is not for you. You need a
yeah,
planned shift. You need a shift where you've planned it out and control the narrative of what's going to happen. Yeah. So definitely not for the people who like to, just be content with where they are.
yeah. I appreciate you saying that because I wanted to make sure we wrapped it up at the end and let it be known. Because I do think sometimes we have these conversations and they're great and they're really motivational, and people are like, okay, yes. And the truth of the matter is, it's not a one size fit all.
It's not. It's
It's not
not.
a one size fit all. Like I did an episode on going no contact with your family. I had to like clearly put in there, your parents still paying your bills. Tread lightly. It's hard to tell them, forget you, dad, if dad is
Right.
paying your rent. So
Right.
skip everything. I said, you hold this for when you don't need them financially.
Right. Right.
It's not a one size fit all. And I think you answered it perfectly, which is, and if you're a person though that absolutely needs comfort, baby, this is gonna be a real, real hard time for you. You probably aren't gonna like this. You probably are gonna be like, why did I start this? Why did they make it seem happy, sunshine and rainbows? None of us like being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But it's about, okay, do you have the tolerance? Are you able to be uncomfortable if it creates the change you need? And for some people, they simply aren't.
Absolutely. And before you take a leap, before you just take a leap and say, "Oh, forget it, I'm not going back tomorrow." Make sure you do know that it is an uncomfortable situation, and if comfort is what you're looking for, this is not the space for
Mhm.
you, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You just need a plan shift. That's all. Just change. You can still shift, but
Hmm.
change how you have to change the approach to it.
Yeah. You might not be a person that can just walk on out. I think me, you have talked about this before too. I also had a moment in my career where I left with no job. I left with no job. I called them, said, how much can I take out my 401k? They told me not to do it. And I was like, I gotta go. It's just me and my baby. I ain't got nobody I can fall back on. I gotta go. I left with no plan. And like you said, though, I kept falling into things.
Mhm.
Like you start falling into things. But
Yeah.
again, if you know, like, I can't do that. I'm not touching my 401k. I get that. You shouldn't have. That was not smart. That's what I did. That's what
We
worked
do
for
what we
me in
have
my
to do.
story. Yeah.
And that's the thing, like, what do they say? Like when you start a new job and they got the person training you, and they're like, "Now, I ain't telling you to do it like this, but this is how I did it." That's basically what this is. Like, I'm not saying do this, but this is how I did it.
And
I'm just saying. Just
baby.
saying, just you got to know what works for you. And I think it all starts with understanding yourself and knowing who
Yeah.
you are and being okay with who you are. That's
Yeah.
I think that I can't drive that point home enough because there was a point where I thought I knew who I was and I thought I was confident and I thought I was okay with who I
Yeah.
was, but I really wasn't because I was shrinking myself. I was not following through with the things that I wanted because I wanted to please other people. So I really wasn't okay with myself. I didn't know who I was. Not until I sat with myself and learned myself and I was like, okay, you know what? Forget everybody else.
Yeah,
I don't care what y'all think. This is just what it's gonna be. And guess what? People still love me.
there you go.
People still love me.
The old people still love you, and you found new people to love you.
Yes. Yes. So again, I'm not telling you to do it like that. That's just how
Look, y'all got an air sign and a fire sign talking. We just like, make it happen.
I
Hustle. Do the thing.
do it. Do it. Do it scared. Do it now. No.
Yeah. You can tiptoe. There is nothing wrong with tiptoeing.
Absolutely. Definitely. You do it at your comfort level. Absolutely.
So again, our big thing is, guys, if you know that you are in a point in your life where it just no longer fits, like you are a puzzle piece that goes to that puzzle, it is okay for you to pivot. It is okay for you to decide, I get to write my new narrative. This narrative no longer fits me. I don't have to finish this whole book. I can start a new book. I can become my own character. Dani, I really appreciate you for coming through, for sharing your story. So, if you guys want to hear more for Dani, she did have a podcast. It's an amazing podcast. Like she said, she does advocacy work with victims of DV, and she has had some amazing, amazing interviews. It's how I got to know her. It's called My Survivor Story. You can find it on any platform that has podcasts
Yeah.
available. Be sure to give her a check out. You can also find our organization, R3, on Instagram or at r3.org.
Yeah.
Make sure you go by, donate when you can. They do so many great things. In fact, I didn't even get to touch on that. Like, even in my life, I've had people in my life that I know that struggle, and I've been able to send them to your organization, and
Mm,
you guys have showed up, and they all have said so many great, amazing things about your organization.
mm,
So we definitely want to make sure, guys, that we are supporting those type of organizations that are doing so much in our community. So make sure you go by there. If there's a way that you can help or donate, make sure to do a help or donation and be a blessing to those who are blessing our community. Now, that is all I have for today's episode. As we said in the last two, I think I gave you guys a warning, like we were going to wind down. We are about to go on break. So, this is the last episode that we have while we go on our summer break. So we do hope you guys take the summertime, go back, listen to some of your favorite episodes, catch up on the ones that you have missed. I'll be posting old clips of previous episodes. And still be sure, like, share, leave a review wherever you're listening. Leave us some review with some words. We appreciate that so much. But we do hope that you enjoy them and keep on rocking with us. Bye.